So she's already spoke to them and confirmed, oh yeah, we were here.
No, that work was hard to get shot on. Man, they shot his foot off last year, give him that pirate nub. Man, that post still got his foot shot off, ain't supposed to be bouncing around on this.
Got to this bit. Tampa, Florida, man. Pool party puts up at 5:30, 6 o'clock, man.
3 shooters exit a vehicle and walked in the direction of the hotel. They murdered Jones with a handgun and 2 rifles. This barrage of gunfire also struck 3 additional victims, and they are shooting at Charles now, and you can see that he's the passenger in that car that's moving and trying to flee. And again, they're still shooting at.
His fans knew him as Julio Foolio, but to his mom, he's Charles. We're fighting to make sure that she gets justice.
Have chosen lives of urban terrorism. Florida, Tampa, JSO, Jacksonville, Miami, wherever you are, will not tolerate foolishness. We'll hold you accountable for your criminal actions.
Just days after Foolio's tragic murder, a secret jailhouse recording hit the internet, and what his alleged killers said is beyond chilling. In the call, you hear one of them laughing, bragging about how the mission was a success, while another voice says, "Ain't no coming back from that. He gone." Authorities confirm the voices match suspects already behind bars in connection with the case. What's worse, one of them even taunted Foolio's family, saying, "Tell his boys we up one." The audio has now sparked outrage online, with fans and even fellow rappers calling for justice and harsher charges. But this leak isn't just shocking, and it could be the final piece prosecutors need to lock these men up for life. Stay tuned, because this case is far from over. The call laughter after the kill. That's what one of the voices said on a Jailhouse phone call. Calm, almost smug, like they just scored a win, not took someone's life. The call lasts less than 2 minutes, but every second oozes chilling confidence. Not chaos, it's calculation. The kind of tone that makes your skin crawl. But let's rewind, because the story behind this murder and the voices on that call goes way deeper than just one recording. Julio Foolio was gunned down in Tampa, Florida on June 23, 2024, during what was supposed to be a birthday celebration. He had been posting on social media all night, telling fans where to pull up, even inviting them to a pool party. What he didn't know was that he wasn't just attracting fans, he was being stalked by enemies. According to law enforcement, the suspects tracked Foolio's movements throughout the city using both social media and direct surveillance. They waited until nearly 4:30 in the morning to strike, right outside a Holiday Inn. Foolio was ambushed, hit by bullets from multiple firearms. 3 others were injured but survived. Authorities later named the shooters Sean Gaywright, Richard Murphy, and Davian Murphy. 2 more suspects, Isaiah Chance and Elisa Andrews, were accused of helping plan the hit. But what really connected this group wasn't just street ties. It was the disturbing way they treated this murder like a performance. According to prosecutors, the coordination between the 5 suspects was unlike anything they'd seen. They all had one purpose in coming to Tampa, said the state attorney, and that was to kill. And now we know exactly how they felt once the job was done. The Jailhouse call was recorded just days after the arrest. The audio was first sent to local media, then leaked online. In the call, one of the suspects laughs about all the news coverage. Another brags that Foolio ain't even see it coming. One even says his name directly and calls him done for. Let that sink in. A man was shot down in public. His killers are in custody and they're laughing about it.
No, that work was hard to get shot on. Man, they shot his foot off last year, give him that pirate nub. Man, that post still got his foot shot off, ain't supposed to be bouncing around on it.
This wasn't just cold-blooded murder, it was a culture of mockery. Foolio's killers didn't just take his life, they mocked the very idea that he thought he was untouchable. Safe. Untouchable. But what really shook investigators was the tone of that leaked call. There was no fear, no panic, not even a trace of regret. In fact, the mood almost celebratory. One detective who reviewed the audio said it felt more like locker room talk, except in this case, the game was murder. And here's where things get even deeper. Police were already eyeing possible gang ties. During a press conference, the Hillsborough State Attorney's Office confirmed that the suspects were either members of or affiliated with ATK and 1200, both known rival groups to Foolio's 6 Block gang. The investigation turned up hours of surveillance footage, cell phone data, and even license plate tracking, all pointing to one conclusion. The suspects had been tailing Foolio from venue to venue all night long. It wasn't random. It wasn't emotional. It was an elaborate setup, planned, tracked, and executed. And in the end, it led to a brutal tragedy.
3 shooters exit a vehicle and walked in the direction of the hotel. They murdered Jones with a handgun and 2 rifles. This barrage of gunfire also struck 3 additional victims.
If that all sounds like military-level precision, you're not wrong. But despite the careful planning, what followed was pure sloppiness. The suspects didn't cover their tracks. Cell tower pings, automated license plate readers, and eyewitness reports helped police piece everything together almost immediately. It didn't take long before the arrests started, and that's when everything shifted, from stealth to showtime. One of the most damning pieces of evidence? The surveillance footage. It shows 3 shooters moving in formation, flanking the hotel entrance, then unleashing gunfire from multiple angles. One suspect even checks for movement before calmly reloading his weapon. It's the kind of footage that's usually shown in courtrooms, Kya, but this time, it's already hit the internet.
And they are shooting at Charles now, and you can see that he's the passenger in that car that's moving and trying to flee. And again, they're still shooting at.
So why did this case blow up online? Because people aren't just seeing the crime, they're hearing the aftermath. This leaked call isn't just rattling nerves, it's confirming what many feared, that some of these killings aren't driven by desperation, but by a craving for fame, clout, and internet notoriety. Even Foolio's harshest critics are disturbed, because if this is how the accused react after a high-profile murder, what message is that sending to the next generation watching? And for Foolio's mother, who showed up to the press conference just hours after the arrests were announced, this isn't just about justice for her son. It's about accountability. His fans already knew what he stood for. Now the world knows what took him away.
His fans knew him as Julio Foolio. But to his mom, he's Charles. We're fighting to make sure that she gets.
And the question remains, how many more young black men will end up memorialized in hashtags before something finally changes? Because if you thought that jail call was chilling, wait until you hear what one of the suspects did just moments before the shooting. A move so bold and so reckless it could blow this entire case wide open.
The setup, the trail bugs, and a second jail call.
For most people, betrayal creeps in quietly, but for Foolio, it may have started with a text message and ended in bullets. We've already broken down how 5 suspects followed and murdered rapper Julio Foolio during his birthday weekend, and how a leaked jail call, released just days later, revealed chilling arrogance and zero remorse. But what if I told you that wasn't the first time Foolio's name came up on a jail call? And what if someone close to him, someone he trusted, helped set the whole thing in motion? Because the next chapter in this story isn't just about what happened after the shooting, it's about the signs that were there before a single bullet was fired. Let's rewind 48 hours before Foolio's death. He had just arrived in Tampa, promoting his birthday party heavy on Instagram stories and other platforms. He was telling fans to pull up flashing bottles, sharing party details, even dropping his location right on camera.
Got to this bit. Tampa, Florida, man. Pool party puts up at 5:30, 6 o'clock, man.
What Foolio likely didn't realize was just how many people were watching, not to party, but to plot. Investigators believe his constant location updates created a breadcrumb trail that made it too easy for enemies to track him. But here's where things get darker. Authorities are now digging into the possibility that someone in Foolio's own circle may have shared his location, not by accident, but intentionally. According to official police statements, surveillance footage showed the suspect's vehicles tailing Foolio from earlier venues, not just the Holiday Inn. That raises a disturbing question. How did they know his full itinerary? Even more chilling, Foolio's mother told prosecutors her son was trying to lay low, which directly clashes with his public posts that night. Friends say he was planning to switch hotels, but the shooters got there first. So either the suspects were tracking him with military-level precision, or someone on the inside was feeding them intel. And here's where it gets wild. 2 independent sources close to the investigation say there's a second jail call, one that hasn't been made public yet. Unlike the first call, which was cocky and smug, this one reportedly sounds nervous, almost coded. Law enforcement hasn't confirmed whether that second call contains a confession, but we do know one of the suspects asked how much they really got on us though. Who talking? Questions like that, when lined up next to surveillance footage, cell tower pings, and gang affiliations, paint a clear picture. These suspects weren't clueless. They knew exactly what they were doing, and now they're scared. And here's the kicker. Foolio had plenty of public beefs, but according to multiple sources, at least one person he called a friend may have flipped. One of the most serious allegations right now is that a former associate, someone Foolio had recently fallen out with, was secretly working with members of ATK and 1200, the same groups law enforcement believes were behind the hit. The name of the alleged informant hasn't been released, but the timeline matches too perfectly. The leaked location data, text messages shared between suspects, and even their movements across Tampa. Was Foolio set up by someone he once trusted? Sources say yes. And if that turns out to be true, then this wasn't just revenge. It was calculated simulated betrayal. According to a former detective-turned-gang expert, this level of coordination is rare outside of cartel activity. What stood out the most? The blend of street tactics with digital warfare, Instagram stories, live location sharing, even facial recognition cameras near the hotel. They played chess, one retired officer said. The streets used to be about muscle. This was tech, surveillance, surgical planning. They stalked him like a target. That's why the second jail call is so important. It could expose who the suspects thought was safe to talk to and who they fear might flip. But even with digital evidence piling up, prosecutors still face challenges. Why? Because suspects like Elisa Andrews are reportedly considering plea deals, but only in exchange for reduced charges. Andrews' attorney has already said she's not waiving her right to a speedy trial, which could mean she's angling for a fast deal. And that deal? It might come with names. Names of who leaked Foolio's location, names of who bought the guns, and names of who's next on the list. Because this wasn't just a random hit. It was a link in a long chain of retaliation. At a press conference just days after the murder, Jacksonville Sheriff T.K. Waters didn't mince words.
Have chosen lives of urban terrorism. Florida, Tampa, JSO, Jacksonville, Miami, wherever you are. Will not tolerate foolishness. Will hold you accountable for your criminal actions.
But the bigger question still remains. If those jail calls were being monitored, why wasn't this stopped sooner? Why were these suspects, many already known to law enforcement, able to coordinate such a deadly hit and then laugh about it afterward? And what is law enforcement doing now to prevent the next high-profile killing? Especially if Foolio's death was just one move in a larger street war that's still playing out. Some of those answers may soon surface in the courtroom. Right now, the suspects await trial. And they're not just locked up, they're separated. Authorities reportedly isolated them to prevent any chance of coordination behind bars, or worse, to stop them from silencing a potential cooperator. Because make no mistake, this case is far from over, and the more jail calls that leak, the more the truth seeps out. But inside that jail, another twisted reality is unfolding. Power struggle. According to a correctional officer speaking under anonymity, the men charged in Foolio's murder have not only been separated from general population, they've been separated from each other. Why? Because officials fear they could orchestrate more violence or intimidate anyone thinking of flipping. And that fear isn't just a guess, it's backed by real concern. Sources say one of the suspects, possibly Elisa Andrews or Isaiah Chance, may have already started talking. While officials haven't confirmed who's cooperating, legal sources say recent motion filings and restricted visitations suggest someone is working with the prosecution. If true, that would mean the first leaked jail call, the one we've all heard, was just the tip of the iceberg. That second, still unreleased call could be something else entirely. A coded warning, a last-ditch effort to stop someone from flipping. And one line from that second call, and according to a source who claims to have heard it, allegedly included this chilling phrase, "Tell Shorty not to make this bigger than it gotta be." Vague, ominous, but undeniably threatening. And it highlights a dangerous undercurrent in this case. Psychological warfare. These suspects aren't just gang members in their they're reportedly skilled manipulators. According to jail staff, alleged shooter Sean Githright has a history of controlling younger associates through fear, gaslighting, and promises of money for their families. He runs it like a mob, one source said. Even from inside, he's got dudes scared of him. That fear could be why some co-defendants, especially someone like Andrews, might hesitate to talk, even if it means taking a murder rap. Because in these crews, loyalty isn't about friendship, it's about leverage. And the unspoken rule, snitching doesn't just make you a target, it puts your whole family at risk. But prosecutors know that. And now, they're using that same fear to apply pressure back by offering one suspect the chance to rewrite the story. Here's where things get complicated. Some investigators now believe Foolio might have known he was being set up. Cryptic final posts, videos of him constantly looking over his shoulder, jumping between hotels. It all suggests paranoia, maybe even forewarning. Was Foolio tipped off? Was he trying to throw someone off? In one of the last clips before his death, Foolio says, "If you ain't got the addy, you're not meant to be there." At first glance, it just sounds like party talk, but according to a journalist who's covered Jacksonville gang violence for years, that line might have been coded. He knew he was being hunted, she said. He just didn't know when they'd strike. And when they did strike, federal agents didn't hold back. U.S. Marshals arrested Davian and Richard Murphy with the type of force usually reserved for federal fugitives. SWAT-style raids, pre-dawn takedowns, entire blocks locked down. Why all the heat? Because these suspects weren't just shooters. They were believed to have access to hidden weapons, burner phones, and active support from other gang members. And even more terrifying, an unsealed affidavit revealed that investigators feared retaliation hits. a sign that Foolio's murder might have been the opening shot in a wider war. Law enforcement knows this could escalate fast. That's why both the Tampa Police Department and Jacksonville Sheriff's Office have stepped up surveillance, brought in social media monitoring teams, and even started contacting family members of potential targets. Because there's one last brutal truth. In gang wars, loyalty is transactional. If someone inside cooperates, it doesn't just put them in danger, it puts their entire bloodline in the crosshairs. And if Foolio's people believe someone flipped, this isn't over, it's just getting started. That's why every new leak matters, every jail call, every phone confiscated, every legal motion filed. Because buried somewhere in those digital trail is the full story. Who pulled the strings, who flipped, and who got played. And it all leads to what comes next. An arrest no one saw coming. A shocking new defendant enters the courtroom, and a key witness makes a confession. That flips the entire case upside down.
The twist a new oughta stunt. Fio's final secret.
They thought they had their five suspects, 5 murder charges, 5 people accused of orchestrating the calculated ambush of Jacksonville rapper Julio on what was supposed to be the highlight of his year, his birthday weekend in Tampa, Florida. But just as the city began bracing for trial, a bombshell dropped. There was a 6th man, and no, he wasn't in the SUV. He didn't pull the trigger. He wasn't even in the same city when the bullets flew, but according to investigators, he may have pulled the strings. He wasn't a known shooter, not even a street affiliate. Technically, he was a former business manager, once part of Foolio's team, a man with access to calendars, hotel bookings, show schedules, and most importantly, Foolio's trust. This individual allegedly stayed close after a quiet fallout, still posing as an insider. But behind the scenes, law enforcement now believes he was feeding real-time information to rival affiliates tied to ATK and 1200. In a stunning twist, digital forensics recovered WhatsApp chats from a burner phone used by suspect Elisa Andrews. And among the messages, one conversation stood out. Let the streets take care of it. Just make sure dude not moving last minute again. No name was mentioned, but prosecutors say the timing, the pattern, and the context all point to one person. And when they brought him in for questioning, he folded. According to sealed grand jury testimony, the 6th man admitted he believed Foolio had it coming. He said Foolio had grown too paranoid, too controlling, and was planning to fire multiple members of his team just weeks after the birthday bash. So he flipped. His reward was reportedly a 5-figure payout deposited through a web of small cash app transfers and third-party digital wallets. In return, he shared just enough detail for the shooters to predict Foolio's moves, including last-minute confirmation of Foolio's Holiday Inn switch, which, according to police, sealed his fate. But here's where the pain runs even deeper. Foolio's fans, already rocked by the news of his murder, had no idea someone who once stood right behind him, smiling on stage, flashing peace signs, holding iced-out chains would be implicated in the plot. The betrayal stung more than the bullets. On Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, tributes poured in, but so did speculation, outrage, and heartbreak. Y'all snaked the realest one out the city, one fan wrote on X, formerly Twitter. Foolio always said the ops wouldn't take him. He never expected his own team. Hashtags like "Idios Justice for Foolio," "Yes, 6 Block Forever," and "They Set Him Up" trended for days. Even some of Foolio's former rivals, yes, rivals, expressed disgust at the way he died. One underground Jacksonville artist tweeted, "We ain't never rock with bruh, but that setup shit? Nah, that's coward work." Perhaps the most polarizing voice to speak on Foolio's death was Charleston White, known for his loud and controversial takes on rap culture and street violence. Within hours of the news breaking, Charleston posted a video that instantly went viral. Some praised the honesty. Others accused him of dancing on a man's grave. But the line that stuck with everybody? Y'all keep saying rest in peace like peace ever existed for these boys. They were born into war, raised in war, and y'all watched it like a movie. The clip racked up over 5 million views in just 24 hours. And for many, it forced a hard pause. Because as much as Foolio embraced his 6-block persona, the tattoos, the dices, the rivalries, he was still just a 26-year-old man with a mother who had to fly across the state to identify her son's body on what should have been a celebration. The mourning wasn't just online. Across Jacksonville and Tampa, murals of Foolio began popping up. Spray-painted tributes showing his face, his lyrics, his signature hand signs. In one of the most touching displays, a group of high schoolers in Jacksonville held a vigil. They lit candles and rapped along to his breakout song, Crooks. One teenager told local news, "He made us feel seen. Like if you made it out of 6 Block, you could make it anywhere." But grief soon turned into tension. Tampa police increased patrols near the Holiday Inn where Foolio was killed, after someone defaced the building's wall with graffiti that read, "We know who did it. This ain't over." Fears of retaliation still loom. Then came the most haunting twist yet. While Foolio's family was cleaning out his belongings, they discovered a locked hard drive. Inside, a digital vault filled with audio files, photos, and voice memos. One of those recordings, now verified by forensic analysts, was dated just 11 days before his death. In it, Foolio sounds exhausted, worn down, tired of beef, tired of betrayal, tired of pretending. I can't even sleep unless my back to the wall, he says. It's like I'm paranoid of everybody, even the ones that call me family. He ends the memo with a grim prediction. If something happens to me, it's gonna be one of them that smiled in my face. That recording is now part of the ongoing criminal investigation. The 6th suspect has been officially indicted. The other 5 await trial. In this case,